is weak men hate strong women. They don't know what to do with strong women. And I'm not talking about strong in terms of you don't need no man, or, you can do everything by yourself, or you can just take a lot of punishment by life and that's strength. No. I'm talking about those of you who are strong in your identity, firm in your boundaries. You're certain about what you're worth. Those of you who are strong, you got to understand something that comes at a price. Specifically, those of you who are growth oriented. You're not just strong in your identity, in who you are and whose you are and where you're going. You're not just strong in that way, but you're constantly trying to be a better woman. Those of you who are constantly seeking out that higher version of yourself, your full potential. I don't know if nobody gonna tell you this, or I'm gonna tell you this. That comes at a price. And you probably already done started paying it. Put I down in the chat if you ever got called stuck up. Simply for being vocal about what it is you will not tolerate. Simply for not being interested in anything less than what you deserve. Put I down in the chat if somebody's ever tried to accuse you of acting brand new because you wanted to improve. Or because you didn't want to go do something that was a complete waste of time. Or because you lost interest in a conversation that had no fruit to it, no benefit whatsoever. Y'all ain't talking about nothing. It's gossip. It's like, you're just like, oh my gosh, like, why are we talking about this? And you got called a name, or you got accused of being a certain way, or something like that. Put I down in the chat if that's you. I want to know if I'm talking to anybody, because if that's you, I need you to understand something. When it comes out into this dating scene, all of that leveling up, raising your standards and stuff like that, it does not result in a lot more men coming your way. And I don't know if I've ever miscommunicated that. I'm pretty sure I haven't. What it does result in is a higher quality to the type of men that come your way, to the men that you find attractive, and to the men that can even stomach you and what you come with. And I say this because a young lady hit me up after my last webinar, how to stop being a man's internship, and she was upset. Derek, I did what you told me to do. I did what you told me to. I raised my standards. I was more vocal. I set the tone. I set the boundaries. I stopped responding whenever the conversation went sexual prematurely. And I done ran every man off. I done did this, that, and the other. And I'm like, whoa. Before we start talking about every man, let's qualify the man. So you're being stronger now. You're being more vocal now. You're taking up space. You're certain about who you are. You're not betraying yourself in order to be in somebody's company. And you're running those men off. Those men, just by what you're telling me, I'm gonna tell you right now, they're weak. And I'm not bashing all men, but those men who run off because you're trying to protect yourself instead, they're weak. Weak men can't stand strong women, especially those of you who are growth oriented. Why? Well, one reason is because they have a fragile ego. The ego is essentially who we think we are. Everybody has some type of ego, but the weakest of men and women, but definitely men, and I'll get to that in a second, are those who can't manage their ego because it's so weak, it's so fragile. Think of like if you ever hurt your ankle or something like that, and you can't put any pressure on it. The moment that any little pressure on it could break it, right? That's essentially what a weak ego, a fragile ego is in a weak man. It basically says, you can't challenge who I am. And as a growth-oriented woman, challenging whatever something currently is so it can be better is just how you got to be and who you are right now. So of course you're going to do that to your man, and it's going to come from a place of love, but he's not going to take it like that because to him and his fragile ego, it seems like it's dangerous. Which it is, because he doesn't have a centered sense of self. He's not rooted in his masculine energy. So he'll respond in a way, the same way that love is an action, so is hate. And he'll respond in hate action form. He'll start calling you names. He'll turn on you. His energy will turn on you. He'll withdraw from you. He'll do you wrong and then blame you for it. He'll do something to try and discourage you from pushing him to grow. And it all comes from a fragile ego. And his fragile ego is why he is weak. And his weakness is why he cannot stand you. Not necessarily you, but what comes with you. The pressure to do better. Y'all, sometimes you might aggravate a man's fragile ego simply by elevating yourself. Some of y'all will meet a man, you'll be in one place in your life. And then as time goes on, because that was always your trajectory, you were always going to keep going higher and higher because you like to grow. That can intimidate that man. That can aggravate that man in his fragile ego, and where he's staying stagnant to where he starts coming at you like you doing something wrong to him. You think you better than everybody. You think you smarter than everybody. No, you just want to be better than your former self. But a weak man is going to hate that. So you're going to get negative energy from weak men if you are a strong woman. And again, I'm talking about the right context of strong, not that you don't need nobody and all of that, but especially if you are a growth-oriented woman. Another reason why weak men will hate you if you are growth oriented is because they don't have any open-mindedness. Again, it's that whole I'm afraid that if I'm challenged, if I consider anything outside of how I currently see things, it's going to dismantle me. And all of that comes from not being rooted, again, not having a real foundation to himself. Again, it's all about protecting who he thinks he is. Let me tell you something. Let me just go to the positive just for a second. When those of us men who have managed our ego, and sometimes it's by force, sometimes we had to get shattered, broken all the way down to where we realized that ego wasn't serving us. We had the ego, but we manage it. So if you come and challenge us to be better or to see things from a different perspective, we're willing to, because we're not afraid that's going to undo who we are. We know who we are. And you know what? If what you're saying is right, then we want to take that. That's a gift that you're giving us. The challenge, so long as it's respectful and tactful, of course you got to be that. But when a man has managed his ego, he doesn't have a fragile ego. He's in control of it. It's not in control of him. You can present different ideas to him without him feeling threatened. When a man is weak and you sitting there talking about traveling or reading new books or going to therapy and counseling to address childhood traumas, you start talking to him about changing up some habits, getting into the gym, I don't know, whatever it is, eating different, whatever. And he don't already think like that. He gonna come at you in a hateful way. He's going to show you that he hates that which you represent. He's not going to be open-minded. He's not going to be receptive. He's going to shut down. The conversation's going to get real dry. He may even try to insult you, make little jokes about what it is that you're intrigued by and want to learn more about. Another reason why weak men hate strong women, growth-oriented women, and specifically in that group, is because it requires a level of humility. You have a lot of weak men that do all of this rah-rahing and chest beating about how they big stuff, they're alpha male and all that. And it's all bravado. It's just a way to try to keep people from even peeking to see if they really are who they say they are. Maybe they'll believe the words that I'm saying if I just say I'm just this alpha male and you can't do this, that, and the other, or whatever. And so they lack the humility necessary to be receptive to a woman who may be operating her strengths. And some guys who say, oh, I need a woman that submit. Y'all ever heard those guys? I need a woman to submit. And they ain't did nothing to be qualified to be submitted to. They ain't submitted to nothing higher than themselves. They ain't able to lead themselves, but they want to lead you as a woman. No humility. But when a man is wise and he has that humility, which is real strength, he's able to discern what's really going to get y'all to the end goal that y'all establish and what's not. And as a woman, even though you're a woman, first I can say even though, like, both people have their strengths. If you have a certain strength that a wise man, a humble man is going to listen. Weak men hate women who require them to listen, who require them to be accountable, who require them to shut up sometimes. So you're going to run off these men. You're going to get a certain type of negative energy from these men, and don't be gaslit into thinking, you're going to die alone and you being bitter and no. But you're going to die at some point. We all are. But while you're alive, you're going to be healthy and you're going to be happy, and you're not going to be at the mercy of another man's weakness. And when a man lacks humility, a weak man, typically who lacks humility, he's not going to be receptive to how you're strong, how you can help maximize him. You ain't even got nothing. A lot of y'all be thinking, oh, I just come into a man's life and I can do this, that, and the other. No, you can't if he's not receptive to it. And he's not going to be receptive if he's not humble. Does that make sense to anybody? Also, weakness will make you rebellious. And again, this is it's like a synonym for hate here. Weakness will make you rebellious to even the most beneficial things. A lot of y'all personalize it when a man, again, comes at you crazy and you was just trying to help him. You was just trying to love him. And he come at you like you did something wrong. Yes, your love is beneficial. Yes, your presence is beneficial. Yes, your intelligence, your intuition is beneficial. Yes, your compassion, your consideration is beneficial. But when a man is weak, and therefore you guys are not equally yoked, he will rebel against that. It's like if it don't taste good, he don't want it. Like a child and their vitamins. Y'all know children, and children are supposed to be weak, first off. But children don't really like vitamins if they don't taste good, like the Flintstone vitamins, or if you don't put it in brownies or something like that. You got to make it taste good. And so when a man is still mentally a child, that's the exact same way that he thinks. If it don't taste good, I don't want it. no matter how beneficial it is, no matter how much he needs it, no matter how much his life is going downhill, the longer that he ignores what it is you're trying to get him to understand, if it feels good, he gonna do it. If it don't feel good or taste good, he ain't. So weakness, when you guys are getting this energy from men, those of you who are like, oh, these guys don't like a woman that's such and such. I'm telling you right now, that's a good thing. Those particular men don't. Those weak men don't. Not all men are weak. I'm here championing those guys who are not, but I want y'all to understand there are guys out here who are too weak to handle you. It just is what it is. And not because you can't handle yourself and all, I'm just talking about what you come with. We'll get to that in a second. Weakness will also make you short-sighted. It'll have you thinking short term. It'll miss the part where, for those of you, again, growth oriented, more than likely you're a woman with a vision. You look at a person, you look at a situation, you look at a child, you look at a home, you look at a new job, and you're not thinking what's in it for you right now or where it's at right now. You're thinking about how far can this go if I fully apply myself? What potential does this really have? And the part of being weak is to strictly think here and now. Now, of course, we're all supposed to be present to some degree. But when a man is weak, he don't want to think long term, talk long term. Why? Because that requires pressure to start aligning yourself now with something that ain't going to immediately feel good or make sense. That requires you to start operating off of some faith. That requires you to start putting in some plan and some structure. And if you're a woman that's growth oriented, that's not strictly how you work. You can be present in the moment to enjoy life and to connect with your family members and things like that, of course. But you're thinking long term. You're thinking like an adult. Weak men don't like to think long term. So those of y'all that be talking marriage and family and legacy and building and generational wealth and generational curse breaking, all of these different long-term concepts, yes, you're going to turn off a weak man. But let me tell you what the weakest of men will do. They'll see all of these things that they know they're not ready for, that they know they can't support, that they know they're not compatible with. They'll see all those things and they'll look at the byproduct of just being in the presence of all of these great things that they know they can't handle. And they'll say, even though this may be uncomfortable, I want to benefit off this. I want to get something off this. Now, that's not bad at first, but a truly weak man will get that benefit just so he can take it on to another woman. Because a weak man, he cannot be in a situation where he feels like he's not in control or he's not the one that you're at the mercy of or that you're dependent on him. A weak man can't do that. So he'll get benefit off of you. He'll come up in terms of his thinking, in terms of his competence around certain things and his exposure to certain things and his putting away of certain bad habits. And then when he gets to a point where he feels like, man, I've done pretty good. Now I can attract other women that don't know who I used to be whenever my current woman found me, and I can get them and act like I'm big stuff and I just came up with all this stuff. That's what the weakest of men will do. And that's why you want to run away, weak men. That's why you don't want to have everybody. You don't want to have a net total of more men who are coming after you. What you want to have is a net increase in quality of the men that come your way. Evolved men who come your way. Because there are some women who say, well, I see that he's weak. I see that he comes at me crazy when I'm just trying to help him, but I'm going to force it. I'm going to tolerate it. I'm going to endure it. I'm going to just go through it anyway. And then what they end up being is that man's stepping stool towards another woman he thinks is more on his level than you. You'll help pull a man up and then he'll start thinking he's too good for you. Y'all tell me when I start lying. You'll do for a man, see him in a certain situation, refine him, dust him off, shine him up, and then he'll start getting fresh on you like he the upgrade. And this is what I call not a relationship, but an internship. That man was just getting equipped so he can go on to find somebody else he wants to be with long term. And there are ways to avoid being in this situation. But I went in on that in my master class, the free master class actually. How to stop being a man's internship. For those of y'all who think you might be headed that way, you ever been in that situation and you want to make sure you're never in that situation again, look down in the comments right here, that little link right here. Click that link and register before that masterclass comes down. I can't even remember exactly when it's coming down. I know it's coming down soon. So if you have not gotten access to that free masterclass yet, right now, go ahead and register. So if it does come down by the time we get off of here, you already got your link and you good to go. But it'll break down how to avoid being a man's internship, because there are two types of women. There's the woman that a man must come prepared for, and then there's the woman that prepares men for another woman. And some of y'all have been on that side of things way too long, because you don't understand that, you getting less attention may actually be a good thing, because you may be around less quality of men that are worthy of even getting attention from. And so some of the best things that can happen to you, those of y'all who have been single for a very long time, and you're saying, okay, I'm ready for companionship. I'm ready to get back out there. One of the best things that may be happening to you still, now that you've healed, now that you've leveled up, now that you've risen your standards and all these different things, that you continue to be single, despite going out here and wanting that love and connection. One of the best things. Sometimes we always think of blessings as far as like what we receive. We receive these blessings. Sometimes the blessing is in what you run away. Sometimes the blessing is in what don't want you. Sometimes the blessing is in what you don't get in the time that you think you're supposed to get it. Because what you're really being presented with is a curse. So if you're running off weak men, and you know that you're running off weak men, if all the ways that you've grown and all the ways that you're protecting you and all the ways that you're operating off common sense in the very beginning and all the ways that you are holding to those boundaries and you're being more vocal, and if all those ways that you're advocating for your best interest, if that's what's turning off men, then you're running off weak men. Congratulations. But those are just my thoughts. I'm your internet big brother trying to look out for you. And if you got something of value from this, I don't want your money. But what I do want you to do is to pay it forward to somebody else on your timeline who can also be blessed by this message by hitting that share button. Hit that share button if you got something of value from this. Don't be stingy. So somebody else on your timeline can be blessed the same way that you got blessed by this message. And if you want to make sure that you avoid being a man's internship, please get the strategies. I gave them out free of charge so everybody can have them. But that masterclass comes down soon. Link in the comments right here. Also in the caption whenever you back out to get access to that free masterclass, how to stop being a man's internship. Holla at y'all later. Y'all be good.